The 2024 Mustang GT should have at least 500 horsepower. I think it's going to have more than 500 horsepower. We're going to be discussing the science as to why, but you don't want to be looking at this mug where we're talking about this good news. You want to be riding that. Let's do work. Our beloved Mustang turns 60 years old in 2024, which also happens to correspond with the launch of the new S650 lineup, and I think Ford is going to be ramping up the festivities and cranking up the horsepower. Let's dive in, sharing my thoughts on an exclusive story from Ford Authority that just came out. Their sources at Ford inform them that the new 2024 Mustang GT will have at least one configuration that will approach 500 horsepower. Now, if you read the title of this video, it said will have 500 horsepower, and I'm using historical facts and science here, aka the science, to show the horsepower will likely be above 500 horsepower. Let's do the work. So firstly, as previously discussed, the 2022 Mustang GT lost 10 horsepower and 10 pound-feet of torque as part of an assault on all good things in the world. The emissions fairies sprinkled their pink fairy dust all over it and got their way. That left the Mustang GT at 450 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque, which at the weight of this pony is still good, but not phenomenal. The current Mach 1 apparently somehow got around these emissions nips and tucks and fairy dust and puts out a more pleasurable 470 horsepower, but still a relatively not crazy 410 pound-feet of torque. Ford Authority says, and I quote, "Given the hierarchy of the current Mustang lineup, it's unclear if that means the GT or Mach 1 will get this specific tune, but either way, it would represent a significant boost for the GT and a decent increase for the Mach 1 if that particular variant is offered in the new S650 lineup." Now, we have already seen what appears to be a Mach 1 S650 testing with an S550 Mach 1, as you can see here, so it's possible the higher horsepower will be reserved for the new Mach 1, but we're thinking, people, so let's think this over. If Ford releases a GT with the same amount of horsepower as the 2023, which is 450 horsepower, or the same amount of horsepower as the 2018 to 2021, 460 horsepower, the new S650 will be like, what's the point? So in order not to be poo-pooed by its fan base, Ford realistically has to beat the 460 horsepower of the 2018 to 2021 model. Now, for the people who say, but you can't feel the difference in 10 horsepower and torque. I can feel the difference in 10 torque in my sleep, people. In my sleep. But you can just add some bolt-ons and get a tune and... You can also add some bolt-ons and get a tune to the non-emasculated 2021 Mustang and gain 10 horsepower and torque. So now you're down 20 horsepower and torque versus the prior year. Focus on me, people. Focus. Going backwards on performance on the Mustang GT when every other new model car in the world adds power, to put it scientifically, sucks. I mean, why would I spend all this money on a 2024 that has less horsepower than the 2018? For the updated infotainment system? Unlikely. None of us have ever bought a V8 Mustang for a touchscreen or interior tweaks. I'd rather just buy a 2021 or earlier and have more power and extra money for a power adder. The only way I would accept less power is with a substantial reduction in weight. Like 500 pounds substantial, and since we know the engines, both the 2.3-liter EcoBoost and 5.0-liter V8 are carryovers from the S650, unless we're replacing all the body panels with carbon fiber, the weight's not coming down substantially, and given the photos, the body doesn't look much different. So we know the S650 has to beat 460 horsepower, or it's no longer red-blooded American, period. But for the sake of argument, let's say they do the bare minimum and they add like, I don't know, 5 horsepower over the 2021, so 465 horsepower stock. Fine. Yawn, by the way. Yawn. But fine. My 2018 Mustang GT was rated at 460 horsepower. However, if you check the YouTubes, the dynos everyone did all show the car closer to the 500 horsepower stock. Ford underrates their cars, which is epic, because if they continue that trend, and we couple that with the information that was just leaked to Ford Authority, we can deduce that the 2024 Mustang GT standard version will have at least 500 horsepower on the dyno, likely pushing the Mach 1 even higher. So if the standard model has 500 horsepower, horsepower, we're looking at a very respectable 50 horsepower gain over the outgoing model year, and still respectable 40 horsepower gain over the 2018 to 21 prior iteration. Now, because of emissions requirements, Ford may mix things up and abandon the fact they usually underrate horsepower, and they may completely lay their cards on the table with an exact horsepower rating, in which case, I'm betting the GT will be in the 480s to 490s and the Mach 1 at just over 500 horsepower. Isn't all this fun? I love talking Mustangs with you guys. Either way, per my last video, the S650 will debut at the North American International Auto Show in Detroit on September 14th, so we're only several weeks away from this exciting reveal. The S650 will continue to be made at Flat Rock and is expected to have an 8-year life cycle, which sounds boring, but per previous reports, we can expect some future models to have hybrid capability, which could infuse some more performance and excitement into the brand, as well as maybe reduce some emissions for the ninnies. Frickin' ninnies. In other news, Ford Authority on fire this week with a picture of what appears to be an S650 GT500 testing platform. Exciting. It looks like Ford may be using a current gen GT500 to test the next generation GT500. The platform has an odd bundle of wires hanging out of the passenger side window, indicating Ford is testing something GT500-y in the form of some sort of electrical components. What could they be? Ford Authority has some further insights, so I recommend checking out the full article, which I am linking in the description below. Alright boys and girls, so the Mustang's 60-year anniversary is next year. What do you think Ford's going to do special for the Mustang launch? I think it's going to be big. Let's discuss below and keep it locked into Rated R Cars for the latest news, and always remember the motto, always be kinder than necessary. And by the way, here's another video worth checking out on the S650. Why not check it out?